So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
At this level? Okay, very good. All right, so just a very brief background. So I was born in New York, background sales and marketing, moved to Japan in 2019, and as Jeff mentioned, I did build a B2B travel business off of TikTok. And so I was working with small to medium-sized businesses in Japan who wanted to sell their services and products primarily to a US audience. And so that's where the B2B came into play. And I amassed it to its peak at 650,000 followers, 130 million plus views. And as Jeff mentioned, I run the personal branding agency to help founders with client acquisition and content and outreach. And the Normal to Founder podcast. These are some of the guests here. And the main purpose for this was really to help people who wanted to start a business, but they don't have mentors. They don't have anyone who's actually built a business. And so I wanted to highlight non-famous people to encourage them to build businesses. All right? That's a brief intro. So let's get into this. So the important question, why did I build my brand? And you guys really should ask this question to yourself before you even think about personal branding, because personal branding sounds great, but you need to first have this done. So for me, I wanted to have my own asset. I had a sales and marketing background, but I realized that I didn't have an asset on my own. I was building assets for others, for other companies, and not myself. And I said, you know what, that's a darn shame. I really need to have something on my own. So that was number one. Number two, I wanted to have control over my narrative. When people search me online, are they gonna find me talking about me, hearing my opinion, what I say, what I'm talking about, my business, what I'm doing? Or are they going to hear comments from other people? Hearing comments from other people is not bad. That's great. But if they're only getting your story from other people, that's a problem. And so I wanted to have control of my narrative. And three, I want to have leverage, getting my own clients. Once I have an asset, I have leverage because people can see what I'm doing. And so I can get my own clients. And so that's what I wanted. That was the whole reason why I decided to build a brand. Now, how did I do it? I can tell you right now that I'm a genius. And this was so easy. Right? And anybody could do it. And then you say, Lindo, how can I do it? And I say, buy my $5,000 course. And I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how. It's not like that. It's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. It really breaks down to luck, consistency, customer proximity, strategy, and partnerships. This is it. I really need you guys to focus on this. A lot of people focus on the end result, but it's this that got me there. And there's no guarantee that if I would do it again, that I can do it again on another platform. Okay? So you really have to keep this in mind. You have to have this. So, luck. I don't want you guys to dismiss this. A lot of people say, oh, luck. You got lucky, or this person got lucky, and then they dismiss the whole entire success story. That's not good. You want luck. I want more luck. If you're going to give me luck, I welcome it. So the question is, how do I get more luck? How do I get more lucky? That's the question. Okay? It's very, very simple. You increase your chances of luck by paying attention to where things are going, whether you like it or not. That last part's important, whether you like it or not. A lot of people here don't like AI. A lot of copywriters don't like AI, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But that's how you're going to get luck, right? You're laughing, right? But that's how you're going to get luck, right? And how do you do that? Because you're paying attention. So for me, because I'm telling you how I did it, for me, I was looking for luck because I knew I want to build a brand. I need to have my own asset. Where's the market going? How's social media evolving? Where's the opportunity? I was open, welcoming opportunity, looking for it. And so when I saw the wave of TikTok, I was able to capture it. If I was defensive, I said, no, I like how things are going now. I like the trends. I'm comfortable. I mastered the game. I finally mastered the algorithm. I would have denied that opportunity. So you have to be open to it. This is how you attract luck. This is how you get lucky. And so right now we're all accustomed to shorts. TikTok is huge. YouTube copied it as usual, right? So Instagram as well, okay? So we're accustomed to shorts. Everyone here, even the youngest person here, knows how social media was before TikTok. Everybody here knows how it was. If you search for a video, let's say you broke your Mac and you want to be able to fix the screen, you search on YouTube and you see a 17-minute video of a guy talking and first in the intro, please subscribe, please like. Why? TikTok solved the problem. It was getting directly to the point of whatever it was, right? And so I saw that wave. I said, this is going to be huge. And so I welcomed it. There's an example of a photo of me here where there was a news crew. A friend came to me and he said, hey, this Japanese news crew is actually interviewing foreigners because they want to understand how foreigners view the Japanese news. But they weren't asking me, they were asking a whole bunch of other people. So what I did, again, looking for opportunity, I went straight to them. I was like, I can give you an opinion if you want. And they said, okay, and boom, I was on TV. So again, you're looking for luck, okay? So that's one. Two, consistency. This is huge. The thing is that I think a lot of people can agree that consistency is good, but consistency is only good if it works. If I was consistent for 8 months and I didn't build my following, and I say, hey, I'm consistent, well, you consistently suck. That's what it is. You consistently suck. So 8 months and nothing, right? You have to be consistent, but you have to actually also analyze what you're doing. You have to put metrics in place. This is not a hobby. Remember, if you're doing this, it's because you're building a business. This is essentially a business. If you're treating it like a hobby, it's fine, but just label it properly. It's a hobby, and that's it. Okay, so for me, I was posting daily, every single day with this phone. Every single day until I had 150,000 followers. Do you know what that is? This is before ChatGPT. This is me saying, what am I going to create? How do I find trends? How do I edit the video? How do I do all this? I had to do every single day. That's consistency, okay? So again, this is hard stuff. Quality and quantity. So you could say, Lindo, you could have you didn't have to post every single day, just focus on the quantity. It doesn't work like that. Especially now with AI, you have to have quality and quantity. It's not no more quality or quantity. It's not 2011. It's not. So you have to keep this in mind. So this is how I was being consistent, and I had a specific metric. Once I hit 150, then I went to 2 to 3. Why did I drop? Because I had consistency. I had momentum. I could relax a little bit. I could finally breathe, right? Next, customer proximity. This is so huge. I talk to my audience every single day on the comments. I reply to every single comment. When you have 660,000 followers, or when it's growing at least, that's a lot of comments. Okay? I'm replying to everybody. Here, as you can see, this is actually live. Okay, this is this is not me creating a video or a selfie. This is live on TikTok. I was on TikTok live. I was on Instagram live. I was talking to people. I said, why are you interested in my content? Why don't you watch YouTube? What makes you keep coming back for more? What do you want to see? Why Japan? Because I created content about Japan, right? And I was getting information directly from them. This did two things. This benefited me in two ways. One, it built a relationship. Because now they could say, oh my goodness, an influencer or up-and-coming influencer is talking to me directly. No one else is doing that. Thank you. Exactly. The opportunity. It's perfect. Another thing right there, they're telling me what they want. They're telling me the content to create so I could create more content so I can further grow. So it was perfect. So you have to be very, very close to the customer and increase speed. As I said, I did everything with my phone. This was not high-end production. And I'm telling you right now, if I use high-end production, if I had, the lighting and everything, I would not be here speaking with you and sharing my story because I wouldn't have achieved this. It would have been too challenging, too much of a burden to do this. This increased speed. Next, strategy. So I created evergreen content. And so this was content that people can find relatable today and in 3 years from now. Okay? So for example, I created one video about how to open an onigiri. It sounds so silly. What do you mean how to open an onigiri? It gets 1.7 million views? That's ridiculous. How? First off, this is to foreigners, so before you can even say how to open an onigiri, you have to explain what is an onigiri. They have no clue, right? We take it for granted because we've been in Japan for such a long time. But you see, for something like that, if it captures someone's interest in 2019, it's going to capture the same guy's interest in 2023 and 2030. That's evergreen content. Now, oh, this is popping on TikTok, let me jump on it, and then it dies next week. You can do that too, but that was my strategy. That was the point. I studied pain points. This one's huge. because I was using YouTube and Instagram to study. So I was looking on YouTube and I said, okay, so what are people searching? I was looking at the search inquiries for people looking for stuff about Japan. And if any of you guys use tools like TubeBuddy, which analyzes the videos, they'll let you know what is very popular and how competitive it is, okay? So if they say, let's give that onigiri example, that a lot of people are searching for that, that's great because the demand is there. But the problem that you have is that once you post a video about it, you have to compete with the 12 to 20 videos per day that's competing for that same thing. So I was like, well, I have a brain cell. Clearly what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the content there from YouTube, and I'm not gonna produce for YouTube. I'm gonna take all that information and feed it onto TikTok. Because the same people who are interested in Japan on YouTube are probably the same people interested on TikTok as well. And so this allowed me to have a competitive edge because I was taking exactly what people were doing on YouTube and transferring directly on TikTok. And I built authority by getting straight to the point. As you all know, we're used to short form content now, but 5 years ago, it was hard to find videos where people got to the point. And so that's what I was doing. Lastly, partnerships. And so I collaborate with influencers and local businesses. I don't know if you know this guy, he's a Japanese influencer. His name is Taka. He's out in Tochigi. He actually teaches Japanese in a very entertaining way to foreigners. And he runs an orphanage. And so I heard his story. I said, I want to collaborate with you. I showcased his orphanage. And we both benefited from that. His audience was introduced to mine. Mine was introduced to his. And he was able to raise more funds to build his first orphanage. I showcase hard to access and unknown places. So for example, maid cafes, vocational schools, anime colleges, kimono shops. Prior to TikTok, if you find this on YouTube, you're gonna find like the BBC or some news station, highly polished. No. I went over there and I said, hey, I'm gonna use this. Every time I was working with someone, I'm gonna use this. It's straight to the point, non-polished. I need people to understand how it is exactly through the lens of someone who's just entering. That was an advantage right there. And as I mentioned already, it created a win-win outcome, okay? So, should you build an online personal brand? No. Now I know this might sound a little strange. It's like, wait a minute, Lindo has a personal branding agency. Isn't he supposed to be converting us? Right? Aren't we supposed to be his leads? Not necessarily, because this is not for everybody. And that's the main thing I want you guys to leave with. This is not for everybody. So let me explain. So first, I think it's good that we have the same definition of personal brand. You can have your own definition of a personal brand, but for today, we're gonna go with my definition so that we have alignment. So your personal brand is the reputation and trust that people have in your expertise. And because of that, it becomes your moat. That gives you this distinct advantage for client acquisition and influence compared to if you had no brand at all. Now you might just say, well, can you say that in simple English? No problem. The simple point is you're building a personal brand for client acquisition and influence. That's it. That's it. Unless you just want to be an influencer. That was my route, right? If you want to if you have a business and you want to build a brand around that, it's all about client acquisition and influence. If it's not, you just have a hobby. Okay? So, should you build an online personal brand? These are the big questions that you should really be asking yourself. So one, you have to realize that you're building a media company around yourself. If you already have a business, that's like me telling you, okay, you have your business, build a real estate company. You say, Lindo, I can't build a real estate company. Okay, exactly. That's the same thing with this. You have to treat it as a business. You're building a media company. And this is why it's going to take time. Number two, it takes a lot of time to build and maintain. Number three, it will likely take you 6 months minimum to get a client. If you get a client prior to 6 months, congratulations. But minimum, 6 months. You're going to burn out unless you have help. Because remember, if you're thinking, I'm just going to create TikTok videos, I'm just going to create LinkedIn posts, yeah, that's a hobby. If you're thinking as a media company, you need help. Number 5, it's a big time and or financial investment. Huge. So the main question that you need to ask yourself, especially if you're a business owner, what's your typical pricing per client on a monthly, annual, or project basis? A lot of founders say, it depends. Fantastic. Get the average. What is that number? If you can get a higher percentage based on the client with personal branding, then it makes sense to do personal branding because you get more, okay? If not, then don't do it, or maybe pause on that. Now, I'm asking you this, but how did I do it? Right? I'm asking you to consider these things. How was I considering it? So for me, the plan was to build a media company around myself. So there was no issue there. But I want you guys to keep in mind, that was all I had. I didn't have a company. I wasn't working at a company. I had enough savings where I didn't have to work for a couple of years. So I had the time. So when I was building the media company, it was building the media company, period, not having my own company and building the media company. Okay, so that's a huge difference. 2, I knew it would take time because I already had experience. 3, it took me 6 months to get a client. And remember, that's with me doing what? Posting every single day. Not once a week, posting every single day, and it took 6 months to get a client. I almost burned out, but what helped is that, again, it was my only focus. If I had something else, there's no way. Or I would have had to invest financially instead of just putting my time into it to get someone else to help me. Number 3, for me, it was a big time investment. I'm the one who put the time into it. I didn't put the finances into it because I was doing everything myself. And so for me, I knew I could eventually get into B2B if I did this, but it was a huge risk. It was a huge risk because I was putting everything into it. So if 8 months passes and I don't hit influencer status, I'm done. If you have a business and you start for 6 months and you get nothing, okay, not the best outcome, but guess what? You still have your company, you still have clients. Maybe you're not where you want to be, but you still have clients, right? For me, this was it. So mine was very risky, but remember, the goal was different. I wanted to be an influencer. If you just want to be an influencer, then maybe you want to consider my exact path. But do keep in mind, it's extremely high risk, because if it doesn't work for you, you have nothing. Nothing. So please keep that in mind. People don't talk about that. Okay, so how to build your brand. Number 1, I would say, is don't make the mistake of focusing on just one platform. I think a lot of people here use LinkedIn, and you can speak with anybody here, and they'll tell you how LinkedIn reach dropped significantly from last year. Right? Why? Because you guys are I don't want to say you guys, but it's because if you focus on just one platform, that's what's going to happen. So yes, I did focus on TikTok. TikTok was the main driver, but I was using Instagram, and I was using YouTube as well. So do not focus on one because you can get hit negatively. So I'm just going to briefly explain the social medias. LinkedIn is a social platform where you can actually create an ecosystem of your target audience. This is fantastic here because, again, this proves that you have authority. This proves that people can know you. YouTube is a search engine. Don't think of it as a social media because there's nothing really social about it unless you're commenting. But that's it. It's a search engine. So you put your content there so that people can find it. But again, labeling is important. Don't consider YouTube a social media. It's a search engine. Instagram is great for social selling. Fantastic if you're using Instagram Live because people see you showing up every single day. It's much easier to do that. Other platforms like School is a community-based. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if you know, you know. And then there's TikTok and other ones. I want you guys to realize the 7-11-4 rule is not something I came up with. Okay, this is straight from Google headquarters. And we can read it here. Google found that customers need 7 hours of engagement, 11 touch points across 4 different locations before they're likely to purchase. 7 hours. 7 hours. The short span of people right now is not 7 hours. How long is it going to, that's why I say it takes long, right? How long is it going to take for someone to watch 7 hours of your content? You have to think strategically because you're a business person here, right? You're doing this for your business. You're not doing this as a hobby, okay? So you have to think, I have to create content beyond 7 hours It's not just 7 because no one's going to watch the whole 7. Oh my goodness, how many hours of content do I need to create? They need to consume 7 hours of content. 11 touch points. This means liking, reacting, DM, in-mail, etc. 4 different locations. This could be LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, etc. Now, of course, you don't have to have 4 different platforms. You could have 2, you could have 3, but this is coming directly from Google, who did the study. Okay, so now maybe you can understand why I'm telling you guys it's like you're building a media company, because that's what it is. Okay, so if you're not ready for it, you definitely have to consider that. Okay, I just want to briefly talk about the 3 mistakes that founders make when they decide, you know what, I'm going to do this. First, they create talking head videos. Don't do this. Create educational breakdown videos. This builds your authority. They post content, but no focus on outreach. When you do that, all you're doing is you're praying to the algorithm, and the algorithm does not bless you. I can tell you that. It doesn't bless you. So don't do that. Engage with your target audience. As I was mentioning, for me, I was using live all the time. If you're using a different platform, comments, engaging with them, even if they, I'm so sorry. That was awkward. Even if they don't engage with your content, because you're starting out, how can they engage with your content? You just started yesterday, for example. Go to other people's comments, go to other people's channels, and you engage that way. Okay. And 3, building media company solo. That's the mistake they make. Get help before burnout hits. That's what I recommend. So, one of these likely apply to you. Okay, you know the value of personal branding and how it'll bring you clients, but you don't want to focus on creating content. Like Lindo, I am a business person. I am not a content creator, period. I want to focus on the business. That's fine. Get an agency to help you immediately, because you don't want to do it anyway. Get an agency to help you do it so they can take care of all the work for you. That's what I recommend, if that's you, okay? And again, remember, you have to make sure that the amount that you get from clients is higher than the investment that you're going to put in personal branding. If it's higher, then green light, go for it. But if it's not, you may need to consider it. Number 2, you see the value, but you want to first learn and try to create content yourself, and then maybe try to get help later. If that's you, perfect. I recommend getting someone to help you for a couple of weeks, a few weeks, just to help you. Because remember, you're brand new to this. You don't really know how any of this stuff operates. If you're going to do it by yourself, it's fine. But get someone to help you for a few weeks. Ideally, a practitioner, someone who knows social media, someone who's already on social media because they're already in the game. You want someone in the game, an actual practitioner, okay? So for example, one of the things that I do, I help founders 3 weeks, and we just focus on this. And what we do, for example, I'll say, get on LinkedIn, screen share. We're gonna look through this together. How do you do outreach? I don't know, Lindo, I got you so you can help me. Yeah, but I'm not gonna give you all the answers. I need you to process it. I need you to do it on your own, because after the 3 weeks, you're on your own, okay? So we're engaging there. Now, we'll do that with LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. And look, if you don't want to work with me, that's fine, but work with somebody. If you're here, please work with somebody. There's a lot of people out there. Maybe I'm too direct. For example, maybe my personality is too strong. That's fine. Get somebody else then, if you're here. Number 3, you understand the value, but the time and money you invest in personal branding is greater than the revenue you expect to return from clients. If that's the case, put it on pause now. This doesn't mean stop. This doesn't mean like get rid of the idea, but maybe revisit it in 6 months later when you have more leverage. If it's a hobby, or if you just want to be an influencer because remember, with me, I wanted to have that influence so that I can then create a business off of advertising and work B2B. Because at that time, when I was starting, I didn't have a product. I didn't have a service. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I was good at marketing, okay? So you have to determine that for yourself. Most likely you're in one of these buckets, and that's what you have to determine. Okay, and that's it. Here's my LinkedIn. That's the QR code for my LinkedIn. You guys could reach out to me there. I didn't want this talk to be too long because I also want to open the floor for Q&A. I think that's where you get the actual value rather than just having me speak for an hour or something. All right, so I hope you got value. I'm done right now. And yeah, I'll just move on to Q&A.